Hello there, my name is Vlad and welcome to the Garage Animal channel. Alright folks, so I installed the heater. All good, all warm, all boring, so I thought why not to clean up the garage a bit and then maybe do a little upgrade on the car. You know, something small but satisfying, like swapping out that useless clock that never tells the right time for something way cooler, a tachometer. Found a 60mm tach that fits perfectly in that slot. Sweet! Now let's figure out how to wire it up. Red wire goes to plus 12 volts from the ignition, black to the ground, green to the ignition coil negative, and the yellow, that goes to the dash light. First a quick test right by the coil and set the number of cylinders by pressing the button. We need 4 cylinders. Now let's run the signal wire from the coil all the way to the dash. In fact, I'm reusing some leftover wiring from the old microprocessor ignition system. Clock out, tach in. Easy. And it works, kinda. The needle bounces around like it's had 3 cups of coffee. That's thanks to the old school contact breaker ignition system. We'll deal with that later. Flashback to 2021, mid-pandemic. We were bored out of our minds at home, so we decided to take the car out for some mini road trips. First stop, the Kyiv desert. Yep, we found that there's a desert not far from Kyiv. Yep, a real one. So naturally we decided we absolutely had to check it out. The road? There wasn't much to look at along the way. It was early spring, the trees were bare, the grass was sad and yellowed. As we approached the Kyiv desert, the landscape shifted. This semi-desert area was shaped by alluvial sand deposits from the Donetsk River, forming dune-like hills. This area used to serve as a tank training ground from 60s to the 90s, and to this day there are still unexploded tank shells scattered across the landscape. But that doesn't stop motorcyclists and Subaru guys from tearing it up across the dunes like it's their personal rally stage. The sand hills are now partially covered with moss, lichens, shrubs and grass, giving the place a unique wild beauty. That's actually where I shot the intro for my first long video on this channel. Well, I didn't shoot it and it wasn't for that video, but it looked cool, so I used it. Go check it out if you haven't. Now you know that I slept in a junkyard engine, which, let's be real, needed a full rebuild. But who's got time or cash for that? So I went with a shortcut, Revitalizant. It's this magical snake oil, chemical formula that supposedly creates a thin ceramic coating inside your engine under the heat and friction. Supposedly restores clearances, reduces wear, and makes your engine feel young again. Sounded too good to be true, so of course I had to try it. First step, oil change. And if you're changing the oil on one of these, you have to clean out the centrifugal oil filter. So while my lovely girlfriend wrestled it off the engine, I drained the old oil. Gunk removed, filter back in place with a healthy helping of gasket maker, because real gaskets for this engine – mythical creatures. Fresh oil in. Bought a compression tester and an oil pressure gauge so I could actually see if the magic goop did anything. Hooked up the gauge where the original oil pressure sensor was and took the car out to get it up to temp. Once the engine was hot, I checked the pressure. And oil pressure... big fat zero. Well, almost zero. Revved it to 3K and got about 2.5 bar. We'll take that. Next, compression test. Out go the spark plugs, in goes the tester. Crank it till the needle stops rising. Cylinder 1, 6 bar. Disconnected the ignition to keep it from sparking. Fun fact, I managed to leave the tester fitting stuck in the plug hole, so I had to use push adapter instead of the hose. Cylinder 2, 6 bar. Cylinder 3, 5.3 bar. Cylinder 4, 5.1, not exactly factory fresh. Decided to try out a carbon cleaner too. You spray it into each cylinder when the pistons at bottom dead center, let it marinate, then crank the engine. Covered with a rag unless you wanna redecorate the garage with soot. Stuff flew out, sure, but honestly, kinda pointless. Carbon buildup is normal. If your oil rings are stuck, this might help, temporarily. But they'll stick again unless you fix the reason. Basically, it's a band-aid on a bullet wound. Anyway, time to pour in the Revitalizant. Takes around 500 kilometers to kick in, so off we went on another micro-adventure. This time to an abandoned Soviet-era pioneer camp near Haidari village, about 45 kilometers from home. Parked at an old bus stop and hiked in to explore the ruins. Soviet pioneer camps were state-run summer camps for children organized under the pioneer movement, the Soviet version of the Scouts. They were meant to provide recreation, education and, well, a bit of a communist brainwashing. A lot of these camps were owned by factories. After the fall of the USSR, many were abandoned due to lack of funding and interest, and now stand as eerie, crumbling reminders of the past. This particular camp was called Romantic and was owned by the Shevchenko factory in Kyiv, which meant factory workers would send their kids there for free. Of course, when we got back, boom, dead battery. I left the headlights on. Brilliant! Managed to fire it up with a hand crank and limped home. The girls, they were a little freaked out we might be stranded there forever. Fast forward a few days and we were gearing up for the big trip. Prepped the ZAZ like it was going to Le Mans. Bled the brakes, gave it a spa day. Pro tip, a clean car is 20% faster. loaded the trunk, the jerry can of gas in the cabin, because obviously there was no place in the trunk, and hit the road to Kyiv. No major issues, except the road was a bit rough at first. Then came a road construction zone when the opposite lanes were blocked and traffic funneled into just 2 lanes. I ended up stuck behind the truck with not nearly enough power to overtake. When the second lane finally opened up, I passed it and breathed a sigh of relief. I really hate driving behind trucks, especially logging trucks, if you know what I mean. Overall, the trip was smooth, just loud as hell, but that didn't stop us from singing along. No matter what we breathe, we still are made of greed. Also, every time a car or truck zoomed past the Zaporozhets, it rocked side to side thanks to the soft suspension and the car's excellent aerodynamics. One gas stop for the car, sandwich stop for us. Last 100 kilometers, the engine felt perkier, like it finally discovered caffeine. We rolled into Kyiv with one goal, but that was scheduled for the next day, so we played tourist. We saw St. Nicholas Cathedral, wandered through the city center, checked out the artist alley where the live music filled the air, and strolled across the famous glass bridge, aka Klitschko Bridge. You know, the one with the cracking glass floor that somehow survived a missile strike in 2022. Then we dropped down to the river port and followed the embankment all the way to Obolon district, tripping over electric scooters like it was an Olympic sport. We clocked in a solid 15 kilometers on foot. Our legs were absolutely toast. Crashed at parents' place and headed to the main train station in the morning to catch a tour of the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Lifetime dream checked off the list. Full video on that coming soon, so don't forget to subscribe. Next day we dropped by relatives to check out his garage of oddities. A BMW M50 powered homemade ride and a Volkswagen Beetle tragically swapped with the Golf engine. And a classic Lada, which honestly didn't interest me at all. Then it was time to head home. Return trip was uneventful. No overheating, no drama, engine still felt like it had a bit more power. Cruised at a solid 90-100 km per hour. One more fuel stop and we were back. After a bit more cruising, I dragged up almost 1600 km since the oil change. Time for the final check. Engine fully warmed up. Oil pressure still hovering near zero at idle, same 2.5 bar at 3K. Pulled the plugs, nice healthy grey deposits, maybe a touch of rust color, tell me in comments if that's normal. Compression results. Cylinder 1 almost 7 bar. Cylinder 2 over 7. Cylinder 3 7 flat. Cylinder 4 6.5. So yeah, compression is definitely up, which might explain why the engine feels livelier. As for the oil pressure, I have a theory. The crank and rod bearings act like hydraulic bearings. There is no metal on metal, just oil under pressure. Unless you've got crazy loads or startup wear, the Revitalizant doesn't get the friction it needs to form that ceramic layer. So maybe that's why it didn't help oil pressure. Or maybe I'm wrong. Drop your thoughts in the comments. My take, not worth it. It doesn't fix the actual problem, only half delivers on its promises and could even mess up future machining. Oh, and yeah, I know the Zaporozhets didn't break in this video, but don't worry, it will next time. So hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. Cheers!